everybody in serving all of our guests here in this special occasion. It's a great deal of pride and satisfaction, and I hope it does for you too. Many of you I met probably at OSS because I believe so deeply in OSS that I do all the orientations myself, along with our OSS team. So OSS really is about two things: our guests, obviously, and how we treat our guests, and then all of us. Our culture here, from diversity and inclusion, right on through to all of the values that we share here, that we talk about. Today, it's a little bit about OSS on the us side. We have learned through many of you that there have been some folks that have been approaching us about a different way of managing ourselves, a way that we've never done here at Entertainment Pritkzer. It's through official organization. And so we wanted to get everybody together today to make sure that you all knew that we understood that this was happening, that we are here for you for any questions, any information that we can provide that might be helpful, and obviously to support you in whatever thinking that might be going on as this process goes to whatever conclusion that it goes to. That's really it today. We put together some slides that kind of lay out how this works, and I'm going to go through those as efficiently as we can. We are up at Benson Cruise time, an early board here at 6 o'clock on this deck. So I'll be as efficient as I can putting this information up, and then we'll take a little bit of time at the end for any kind of questions that you might want to ask. And if you have a question as you're watching this, just try to notate it in your head, and either you can ask it at the end, or if you don't like asking questions in front of a big group, that's cool. I don't either. Come up to us afterwards. Janelle is here, Grace, myself, Heather. We've all become very versed on this material, and we can help answer whatever question if you're more comfortable asking one-on-one. Does that sound good? Okay, so all of the materials that we're going to be reviewing today and that somebody may have approached you about on the pier are all encapsulated in what's called the National Labor Relations Act. This is an act that affects organizations all over the United States, not just here in Chicago, and this is the rights and responsibilities for all of us. For shipmates in our case, for union organized employee bases that might be out in Chicago or in the United States, and of course for employers, whoever they might be. The NLRA affects all of it, okay? We want to make sure that everybody knows here it's your right to engage in protected concerted activities. We understand that it's your right to engage in these activities, including organizing. That's just the way it is. That is everybody's right to do that. We are committed, as we always have been, to following the National Labor Relations Act. It's a very important act in the United States. This includes making sure that when we're being approached about some of these things, that all of us, it's very, very important, if there's a theme to all of this, that understanding the information is critical. And that's what we're trying to do here, is to make sure that we here in this room, all of us together, can understand this material together, so that it's not incomplete, so that somebody's not mentioning something to you in one place but not giving you the complete picture. We're trying to give the complete picture here so that everybody understands. Some of us shipmates have been asked to sign different things, little cards that we're going to show you that may or may not have been explained. And so what we're going to try to do today is explain the material that's in there and what it really means. Based on the National Labor Relations Act. We understand that there can be pressure to do different things, and we're going to talk to all of us about that and how to handle that. And then your rights to say yes to something, your rights to say no to something. It's really there's only one boss in this, and it's you over yourself. Your rights are your own. You have the right to say or do whatever it is that you want. Okay. This is an example of a card, a union card, the one that's actually some of us may have received in this room. For those of you in the back, you probably can't see this one, but I'll go over what's in here. But this is an example of what it looks like. It kind of looks like a little postcard, and it basically asks for your information up here: your name, email address, signature date, your address, your home phone number, who you work for, and what department
that you work in. If I read this to you, it says you have the right under federal law to form, join, and assist your union to bargain collectively through your union and act together with your coworkers for mutual protection. To act openly with your coworkers about your union, discuss wages and benefits, wear buttons and T-shirts, to hand out union information, solicit authorization cards. Your employer cannot threaten your job, wages, or benefits. Your rights are covered under Section 7 of the NLRA. So that's what it says on there. For anybody who has not seen this, we're happy, to answer questions about this, but it's a very straightforward card that some of you might have seen. What's not on the card, and some things that everybody here should know about. A union authorization card is actually a binding legal document. By signing that, by putting it on there, the way the National Labor Relations Act treats that is a binding legal document, like a contract, like a power of attorney. There is no date on there. That means there's no expiration date, and so it's kind of good indefinitely. Or any sort of activity that may go on subsequent to you signing it. If there ever were to be an official vote, which we're going to talk about in a little bit here, and the follow-through was a yes vote, which again we're going to also talk about, it can obligate any shipmate, in this case, to the rules of the actual union that it refers to. And you said, what do you mean rules? Every union, to be a union, it's kind of like a business. They've got to have, they're required by law to have a constitution complete with a full set of bylaws, and there's usually quite a few of them. And so it's important to know that there are all of these laws and constitutions out there with the union. And so when somebody's asking you to sign something or talk about something or agree to something, it's important for all of us to know there's this whole set of rules here that it's your right to ask about and say, can I see that? Can I understand what it is we're talking about here? Because that's where all of the rules are. What is the card saying at the end of the day? It's saying that I want to be a member. That's why the card solicitation is brought about. It's not saying I'm interested. It's what they mean when you sign that is I want to be a member. That's how that's treated by the National Labor Relations Act once it's been signed. Whether it's that, and we want you to know that that's what that means. It's not an innocent card that I'll sign this and whatever happens, happens. You just signed something that now you put your position on there, whether you realize it or not. And again, trying to educate all of us on what this means. You're authorizing the union to negotiate with your employer regarding all terms and conditions of the employment. So that's, both of those things are being delegated to the union when they sign that card, if it were to ever be part of the organization going forward. So that's really what that card says. Some questions that come about regarding the authorization card. Does signing a card mean that the union automatically represents me and my fellow coworkers? No, it doesn't. The vote that I spoke about earlier, that's a whole different process. That if there are a sufficient number of cards and if there's interest between both parties, both an organization and the shipmates in this case, there would then go on to an election, and it is a secret ballot election, and it's by law has to be a secret ballot election so that anybody can vote their conscience. That you'll be voting in front of an organizer or a friend who might have peer pressure. It's all about you and your protected rights, so that you can vote your conscience without any peer pressure. Does signing the authorization card mean that I'm automatically a member of the union? I have to follow the union's constitution and bylaws. No, again, that would happen under a vote, and then you would join the union, and then you would pay union dues as a member. That's when that becomes official. But signing the card is the start of the process as it happens. If I'm a member of a union, just a little typo there, do I need to follow the Constitution and bylaws is what that is? And yes, once the membership is active, the Constitution, those bylaws, that's why they're so important. That's kind of what rules. Those are the rules now, that Constitution and bylaws. So it's very, very important if we were to be considering any of these offers that are out there that you would understand what's in there, because that becomes kind of how it works. What are these rules? Well, we don't know. I don't have that constitution. That would have to be requested of the folks who are offering these cards or what have you. We'd encourage you to do that. If you really want to understand what it is that's being talked about, that's what's being talked about. It's that body of information in the Constitution that they're talking about. And that's where you really see what this is all about. What if this all goes where it goes and I don't like the union's rules? What if I don't want to follow them? Again, that will be in their Constitution. You'd have to ask. But unions all have the power to levy fines or revoke membership. And when I say revoke membership, in a structure where it's all or none, and we're going to talk about that in a second, not being a member means you can't be employed wherever it is that the membership is. So it's kind of a double meaning there when they don't follow the rules. So those rules, I think we all understand, are very, very important to understand as you're thinking about, if you are thinking about any of this. What does authorize a union to negotiate with my employer regarding all terms of the conditions of my employment mean? First, collective bargaining of a contract. The law requires that the company and the union negotiate for at least 1 year, but they could reach a contract sooner than that. A typical first contract is reached around 12 to 18 months after an NLRB election. So, if the card signing process were to go to fruition, if the election were to go to fruition, then there is a year to a year and a half of kind of the organization and the union talking with each other before there's really any material change in what goes on. That's what that means. But it is somebody else negotiating on your behalf. You don't get to play a part in the process. Somebody else does all of that for you. Secondly, the company is required to talk directly to the union about any changes to terms and conditions of the employment. That includes discipline, reassignment. The company is not allowed to deal directly with all of us in this room. So the dynamics that we all have here, we talk about both rewards, promotions, disciplines, things like that, are all done through a third party. That's really what that means. We're bringing a third party into the mix, and we're not allowed to do that just us alone. So it's a very, very different dynamic. Yes, Jeanette.
Reinforce. Does everybody understand what that means? That is really a critical moment as a decision maker for you. That anytime you want to interact with the company individually, the company would have to invite a third party in to represent you on that behalf. So I want to make sure, Dan is going through a lot of information for everybody right now, and I think it's really important that the number one message here is know what you're signing up for. Understand the information, understand what the relationship will look like, and understand the facts before you sign anything, and really be prepared for what that outcome is. Okay? And I know we're going to have question and answer here in a little while, but I just wanted to point that piece out. That's a really big piece of this, to understand what the relationship could look like in the future. I'm excited about it.
That's fine. Great. Third, resolution of workplace issues requires utilizing what's called a grievance process. So if there's something, that you normally would have talked with your supervisor about, I need this or that, my schedule or what have you, and you can, again, like the other issues, you go through a third party now. Instead of talking directly with, one of us in this particular case, you'd need what's called a steward. That's the title of the position that handles this within union management, and it's a multi-step process to try to work through that steward. A very important thing to note here is that the union now decides if this is a matter that they want to take up on your behalf, not your employer, and not even you. They have to decide, is this something we want to handle as an official grievance in the process, or not? And they can say no, or they can say yes. The point is, it's taken out of all of our hands and it's put into the hands of the third party. So those are kind of very clear examples of what authorizing the union to negotiate on your behalf mean? It's putting it in the hands of a third party. A union, as I said, has the right to decide not to pursue your individual interests or needs. They always reserve that right. That's part of their constitution. Common question is, when will we get everything that may be getting said to us out on Dock Street or as we're running trash or what have you? You saw the timeline earlier. It takes months to get through an election, and then it can take upwards of a year and a half to negotiate what these final arrangements are. Negotiations, I think we all know this, are always between two parties, right? And in this case, the two parties would be a union and the employer, and anything can happen. And so a promise is not a guarantee because everything has to be negotiated by its nature. And so it's not real until it's been negotiated. Guarantee that because it has to be negotiated over that 12-month line. That's just the definition of how that works. Proposals are exchanged, in this case, between the union and the organization. That's why it takes a while, because people are drawing up proposals, then counter proposals. Typically takes 12 to 18 months. The company and the union must bargain in good faith. If somehow, some way that doesn't happen, that can have its own ramifications. It does not mean that either the company or the union must agree with each other's proposals. They oftentimes don't agree, and that's why there needs to be a negotiation and to get to a settlement where they all agree. More frequently asked questions: if I sign the card, do I have to vote for the union? No. They are two separate processes. Oftentimes, folks will sign the card not understanding exactly what it is that they're signing. If you did and you didn't understand it, don't feel bad. It does happen. What's important is, if you haven't, to understand that there's an entire set of rules out there in a constitution that it would benefit you to see before you sign anything. But no, you do not have to vote for the union. If there's an election, which would be much later, it's a secret ballot election, as I told you. There's no peer pressure. Nobody knows how you vote. You're not required to vote yes or no based on how you sign the card. You can change your mind and vote differently. If I sign the card, can I get it back? That, unfortunately, is a very unlikely scenario. Once it's signed and in the records, that's it. That's another reason why you've got to be very careful with it, because they keep it, as long as they want to keep it. It's very, very difficult to get it back. Who can vote in an election? Anybody who is part of the community of interest. In this case, would be all shipmates who are serving on the front lines for all of our guests. This is a National Labor Relations Board term that roughly translates to all shipmates who share similar supervision terms and conditions of employment and location. If it came to a voting stage, it's best for all shipmates to participate in voting for the most fair representation. That's a very important point that we would get to and remind everybody later. It'd be very easy to say, I don't even know what this is, I'm not interested, I don't want to vote, but we wouldn't, and we'll remind you of this, ever recommend that, because what happens if it ever gets to a vote is whatever that vote is affects everybody. So whether you voted or not, so it's very, very advisable to vote. Your conscience and go in there, and if you like what you see, you vote yes. If you don't, vote no. But not voting, then you're acquiescing to somebody else essentially voting for you. So you would not want to do that, and that's something we would remind everybody are. Again, election facts, it's always a secret ballot election. It's never out in the open. That is the law. A majority of those eligible voters who vote determine the outcome. So it's not the entire group of shipmates. It's whoever votes. So if 10 people show up and vote, and 6 vote no and 4 yes, then it's enough. And whatever the broader group wanted, doesn't matter. It's only what those 6. So those 6 folks now have determined it for everybody. Whether you vote or not, all shipmates are bound by the outcome, as I've stated. Even if you sign an authorization card, you have the right to vote your conscience without peer pressure. That means you can vote yes or no. But if there is an election, again, cannot say enough how important it is to vote one way or the other. Next steps, if enough cards are collected, a representative case petition, it's called a representative case petition, is filed with the National Labor Relations Board, and that's the union would do that. there may have to be a hearing on who can vote, especially in a seasonal business like ours where we've had shipmates come and go and some won't even be here anymore. It gets a little tricky, and that's why they go back and double check on who actually can vote and who's still here and who isn't. So that can be a process all on itself. We would post notices about the petition. That's something we would be required to do. We certainly would. If it came to that, this again is a law. We would be required to provide the union with everybody's mobile phone number, personal email, home address. That is obviously not something we ever do in the normal course of business, but that's what the NLRA would dictate that we have to do. And so it's important to know that. Your information would have to be shared with these folks. As I say in all of our OSS, this version of this, we're all here together, guys, serving our guests and helping each other. We all want to work together to make this the very best place that it can be. We want what you want. We are not perfect. That's starting with me. That is for sure. No company's perfect, though. But we will always try very, very hard to make this the very best place it can be for everybody here and certainly for all of our guests. And if we're failing, part of how we've always gotten better is all of your predecessors before you and you telling us where we can get better, giving feedback, whether it's in shipmate surveys or just telling us throughout the day, and us hopefully trying our very best to make incremental change to constantly make it better. And that will never change. We always want to stand behind you and with you together as a team and making this the very best place it can be. Hopefully this goes without saying, but we have a very open door policy. I've lost track of how many shipmates have come up to the office or come up to me, Grace and others right here on the pier just to talk about anything, and we encourage that. I can't say that we'll solve everything right there, right then, but it's very, very important to us that if you're feeling something, send us a note, send an email, bring it up in meetings, let us know that, and it's on the list, and we'll look at it. The open door policy will never go away. It's always going to be there because we're always going to be here. We're committed to working directly with every shipmate to address any problem that we possibly can and continually improve our workplace for all of us and for all of our guests. I will never be able to say this enough, but I am deeply grateful, we all are, for everything that every one of you and your colleagues around us are doing for our guests out there. We are carrying a lot of folks, aren't we, right now? It is still August, it's 90 degrees out. We all know what Navy Pier is like. It's a busy place down here. Every one of you guys is making a memory for somebody. Those folks who were just on lunch today are never going to forget their boat ride because it's probably the only one they're ever going to take. It's a very big deal. This is not the corner restaurant. The work that you're doing is creating a memory that's lasting a long, long time because of what people are celebrating and where they're at. We are very grateful for everything that every one of you are doing. If you have any questions, we have about 5 minutes of, we can do this out, or if you want to come up to any one of us after, as I said, just ask what you want. Trying to be efficient today. Enough of me. Were there any questions that anybody wanted to ask us right out of the gate? We'll be here. If you want to ask one over here, you know all of our emails, our names and everything at Pritkzer.com. Please email us, give us a call, stop by the office, grab us some stock. We're here. And we want to be clear. Oh, yes, sir. So the question was, if you want to become a member, do you have to pay? You don't have to pay right away. But unions, guys, are businesses. It's not free. They've got to pay for a lot of things, and there's only one source of revenue, and that's so that's how that works. But yes, they will all eventually pay. Now, will they do it right away? And sometimes the messaging can get a little fuzzy. Oh, no, you don't have to pay. That's because you're paid late. But it's impossible for them to exist without revenue. Just remember that part. Just like it's impossible for us to exist without revenue. So yes. Yep.
you're a member already. You
Yeah.
have a monthly dues?
So the question is, if you're already a member, do you have monthly dues? So everyone works differently. Some take it out of every check. Some probably take it monthly. It really depends on what their arrangements are. That would probably be in the list of bylaws in the Constitution, how that works. Very good question. Other?